12. We followed Samuel Cleggarsh out of Maury's bookstore. He unlocked the door to his shop, and we followed him in. Cleggarsh is sorry you were kept waiting, he said. You didn't make an appointment, so of course I wasn't expecting you. Actually, we just wanted to look around, Aln Mndlshn said. That's perfectly all right, Samuel Cleggarsh said. Look at anything you like while Cleggarsh gets the equipment ready. Equipment, I asked. The best equipment, Samuel Cleggarsh said. My method of mind control is the most scientifically advanced, technologically perfect, and generally successful system of accelerated human growth ever devised by man. Now, where's that extension cord? Alan and I looked at each other. Samuel Cleggarsh was rummaging around, dragging all sorts of machines, tangles of wires, and rolled up sheets of paper from under tables. He set up a sort of easel and dragged a bench into the middle of the room. All over the room were signs like the ones on the outside of the store, yellow with red lettering. The signs all had slogans like, "Talk is cheap," "Action is expensive," and "Think before you act," and "Today is yesterday. You won't be able to remember tomorrow." Obviously, Samuel Cleggarsh was setting up some sort of lecture or demonstration for us. "Mr. Cleggarsh," I said, "we just came in to look at some books. We didn't plan to see your demonstration." "How do you know that?" Samuel Cleggarsh asked. "Do you know what I'm going to demonstrate?" We admitted we didn't. "Well then, how do you know or not that you don't want to see it? Just look around and entertain yourselves. Cleggarsh is almost ready," Samuel Cleggarsh said. There were books about all sorts of weird stuff I'd never heard before. Bean sprout therapy, messages from flying saucers, ancient health secrets of New Jersey, transcendental yoga, knee manipulation to increase brain power. There were also lots of books with pictures of strange-looking guys on the cover. A lot of them had beards. All of them were staring into the camera with this strange expression, eyes open very wide. They had titles like Harold Platt, New Age Seer of Rochester, and Belong, You Are a Pickle, The Belong Pickle Master's Guide to Ego Submersion, and Fred Watanabe, The Divine Inner Self. "Gentlemen, please take your seats. Cleggarsh is ready to begin his presentation," Samuel Cleggarsh announced. And Aln Mndlshn and I sat down on the bench facing Samuel Cleggarsh, who was standing in front of the easel. On the table beside him were a bunch of odd-looking machines, square and made of metal with black, crackly paint on them. Some of them had tubes sticking out at the top and black dials with white numerals. On the easel was a great big drawing pad. The cover of the pad was turned back, and the first page showed a picture of what looked like an old-fashioned light bulb. Lettered above the light bulb were the words "Cleggarsh Mind Control System." Under the light bulb, it said, "Ink." "Gentlemen, what you're about to hear and see will be the most astounding and revolutionary set of ideas to which you've ever been exposed. You may not understand everything right away. Some of these concepts are very deep. Cleggarsh asks you to pay careful attention, and in the interest of time being saved, to please refrain from bursts of applause. Also, kindly try not to faint from astonishment. If you have any questions, Cleggarsh will answer them at the end." Samuel Cleggarsh flipped open the page of the big drawing pad. There was a magic marker drawing of something that looked sort of like a cauliflower. "Gentlemen, the human brain, the most exquisite mechanism on earth," Samuel Cleggarsh said. "This drawing is the result of intensive work by the Cleggarsh Research Associates, Incorporated. Together with the Cleggarsh Foundation, our organization has delved deeper into the secrets of the brain than man has ever done before. It is well known that the human beings make use of no more than 10% of the potential power of the brain. If we were able to use 20% or even 15% of our brain power, we would all be geniuses and go down in history. There is no way to imagine what a human being would be able to do if he could utilize 100% of his brain power. Please keep this in mind during the rest of our little talk." I couldn't understand why it took the Cleggarsh Research Associates and the Cleggarsh Foundation such intensive work to make the magic marker cauliflower brain drawing. It looked like an ordinary cartoon to me. Cleggarsh flipped the pages. There was a complicated drawing with all sorts of funny symbols connected by lines. It sort of looked like the schematic diagram of a radio or stereo set. I had seen one of those. It came with a stereo that was also a bar that my parents had bought for the living room in our new house. It was like one of those old-fashioned globes of the world, a big one that stands on the floor. You lifted the back half half on hinges, and there was your stereo with AM, FM, and record player and an 8-track tape, and around the inside of the globe were holes to put glasses and bottles into. "This is a schematic diagram of a simple radio set," Samuel Clegg said. "A 1934 RCA Victor radio. This very radio, in fact." He pointed to one of the machines on the table. "Old-time radios. That's what they were. It didn't look much like a brain in the first drawing, does it? But in fact, it is very much like that brain. Very much indeed. Look at this." Samuel Clegg flipped to the next page, and there was another schematic diagram, only instead of being sort of squared off, the lines were supposed to represent the wires in the radio were curved. The whole picture was more or less the shape of a cauliflower. "Astounding, isn't it?" Samuel Clegg said with a triumphant smile. Samuel Clegg had a long wooden pointer, and he pointed to the various symbols in the radio brain cauliflower drawing. He didn't say what they were, though. "Yes, gentlemen, astounding, but not 1/10 as astounding as what I'm going to tell you now. Having discovered the uncanny similarity between the human brain and the radio receiving sets, I established the Clegg Psychical Phenomenon Bureau. I began to collect little bits of information, piece things together to study. I found out how to utilize the full 100% of my brain power. Now this is truly the amazing part. Right now, while I'm talking to you, I'm in direct communication with the people on Mars." Aln Mndlshn, who had been sort of sitting bent over on a bench with his elbows resting on his knees during Samuel Clegg's lecture. Every now and then, when Samuel Clegg wasn't looking, he would poke me in the ribs. However, he was sitting up straight now. "People on Mars?" he asked. "Yes, of course," said Samuel Clegg. Long ago I perfected the art of teleportation or thought travel. Then, adding a few little extra details of my own, I developed that art to the point where I am, in effect, in 2 places at once. In fact, while we're having our very pleasant conversation here on Earth, I am also sitting in the office of the Martian High Commissioner for Extra Martian Transport, having a friendly chat with my old friend Rolls-Up, the Deputy High Commissioner. I am aware of my activities on Mars as I talk to you, and I am aware of my activities on Earth as I sit sipping a cup of Fleegrix with my friend Rolls-Up. "What is Rolls-Up saying?" Aln Mndlshn wanted to know. "I'm afraid I can't tell you that," Samuel Clegg said. "Not that it is anything private or secret or confidential. It's only that it just isn't the done thing to carry messages from one world to another. There are certain restrictions of usage that come with extraordinary powers. However, if you decide to learn the Clegg mind control, it won't be very long before you can go to Mars yourself. Rolls-Up, who is one of my students and therefore able to monitor our conversation, says it will be his pleasure to receive a visit from you both." "You have students on Mars?" I asked. "Oh yes," Samuel Clegg laughed. "Many thousands of students. You see, the civilization on Mars is far more advanced than our own. Therefore, they instantly recognize the value of the Clegg mind control. Here on Earth, it's quite another matter. People just aren't ready for the next step forward in evolution. But let me get back to my explanation." Samuel Clegg flipped the page of his big pad again. The next picture looked like a portable transistor radio with some wires coming out of it. "This is the Clegg Mind Control Omega Meter," Samuel Clegg said. "Clegg has perfected this instrument to help mind control students all over the world and others. The principle of the Omega Meter is this. As you know, the brain is constantly putting out electrical impulses. You may have heard of alpha, beta, and theta waves. These are only the ones science has discovered in man so far. That is, until Clegg discovered any number of other brain waves, the most important of all being the omega wave. The omega wave is produced in what I call the state 26, which is an incredibly high state of creative consciousness in which we utilize 100% of our brain power. The use of this Clegg Omega meter is very simple. It is based on the principle of biofeedback. The meter makes a continuous buzzing noise, except when it receives omega waves. Then a tiny tape recording plays a few bars of jingle bells. To activate the omega meter, we clip one of these wires to each of our earlobes and meditate fiercely. The buzzing continues until we get to the point where we are producing omega waves. Then we hear the machine play jingle bells. Once we are able to produce omega waves, we can do things we previously thought were impossible. For example, visit Mars. We can also read the thoughts of others, and we can control the actions of others. Of course, all this takes practice, and you mustn't expect to be able to do it all at once. First, you have to learn to make the Omega meter play jingle bells. Then you can learn to control the actions of others. That's the easiest thing. Somewhat later, you can learn to read the thoughts of others, and later still, you can learn to do thought traveling, to cause objects to move, to see into the past and the future, to accurately predict the weather. Samuel Clogarsh flipped the page again. The next picture showed a man with a big smile on his face. This is a picture of a man who has completed the Clogarsh mind control course. As you can see, he is totally happy. This concludes my remarks now. This concludes my remarks. Now, I will be happy to answer 3 questions.